Hi, Shea. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Hey, Ariana. Nice to meet you.
Hi. So what attracted you to the project to begin with?
What attracted me to the project? I mean, you start with Julie Roberts. I had a chance to work with her once before on Homecoming, Sean Penn, and then, Matt Ross. I was a big fan of Matt Ross's Captain Fantastic that he did with Vigo. So, I started there, and then to be offered Liddy the chance to try to, I knew it was going to be really tricky and scary and tough to try to figure him out. And I was looking for that challenge.
How did you prepare for the role?
I had months out to start, and it took an enormous amount of research to try to figure out, how I was gonna. Liddy's tricky. Liddy's very tricky because if you're not careful, he easily becomes a caricature. He floats into that very easily. So I knew I had a fine line. So that was one of the really tough tasks of him. You know what I mean? Honoring the craziness that happens in his life, but finding the human being underneath there. You know what I mean?
For sure. Had you listened to the podcast before?
No, I didn't listen to the podcast before it. No, I had not. No.
And while doing research for this role, was there something very interesting and surprising that you didn't know about Watergate previously?
Yeah, I mean, I knew Watergate, but I didn't know it until we really did a deep dive on it. The thing that I found most interesting, one of the things is, how are you going to approach Liddy in his part in Watergate, and finding, asking yourself that question of how far are you willing to go? At its base, Liddy just wants to be recognized by the king, by the president, by Nixon. He just wants to have those eyes trained on him and say, you're a smart man. You're a genius. I'm going to put you in charge of this whole thing. And that's what he wants more than anything, I think.
Yeah. And that's how you were kind of able to challenge kind of like his villainous background, but also make it human, because it seems like a lot of the characters on the show really just want to serve the president in any way possible.
Yeah. When I take on someone like Liddy, you don't play a villain as a villain. You don't play a funny character funny. You know what I mean? That's just at its core. You're looking for something to be able to hang your hat on, to be able to play at the start, because you start very broad. When I start very broad with my research, my work. And what I found was that he is honorable in situations. Liddy was the only one that didn't name names. He's the only one that didn't tell on anyone and was willing to do those 24 years. That is something that I can play. I can get down with that. And also, he was a family man. He loved those 5 kids, and he loved Frances dearly. You know what I mean? He was married 53 years to her. And so you start there. That was what really surprised me, was like, you have to find that honorable. I mean, you don't equate honorableness and Liddy together. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you had a meeting of all the president's men and you wanted to know what really happened in that meeting, you'd go to Liddy, because everyone else might have a different opinion of what happened in that meeting. But Liddy is the guy you would go to that was honest about certain things there.
Did you have a favorite scene that you shot?
Oh, that's like asking my favorite kid.
Well, one of your favorites as of today at the very moment.
You weren't expecting that answer, were you?
No.
Again, I like to be surprised. When I take on these things, I don't know how I'm going to play them on the day. I let it come to me. And I was really moved once I got laughed out of the room with my ideas in the first episode by John Mitchell, by Sean and the group. And I'm in my basement and I'm licking my wounds like an old lion on the Serengeti who's just taken on one of the young, like, and my son comes down to talk to me. That was one of my favorite scenes because it didn't play out the way that I had necessarily, how tender. And I think we need that, knowing where we're going. I really love that scene with my kid.
Yeah. And would you say that you had, was kind of the most challenging scene to shoot?
Well, that's easy. In episode 7, they send me to prison, to maximum security prison. And we had like a 7-day shoot from inception of when I go into prison all the way to an existential battle with a rat at the end. That to me is some of the toughest stuff that I've ever had to take on, much less just in this piece.
What would you say is the best part of doing a period piece?
Well, I mean, I'm dolled up right now in Perry Mason land, 1933. I love period telling stories. I love the 70s. And it's just, to me, it's about learning about it. It's about being able to really walk on that set and have everything feel, in place, and watch all the units work together, hair and makeup and lighting and camera and set. I mean, look at this. I mean, the set design was impeccable, So I love telling stories in period.
What is a decade that you would love to shoot a project for?
Other than the 70s?
Yes.
I tell you, I keep getting caught in the 30s with Boardwalk Empire and Perry. I love the 30s. I love it.
So for Liddy, you have a pretty intense mustache. Was that yours, or was that a lot of hair and makeup?
What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like it had to be yours, because I feel like if it was hair and makeup, it would have came off a bit more comical.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's what I said. You have to find. You're right. You're exactly right. You have to play the truth, and you have to find it. I mean, this all came out. The hair all got plucked. You know what I mean? Yeah, all of that. You have to. I didn't use any prosthetics on him. You know what I mean? Sean, Kazu, well, that's not true. I did in 8. I have to go bald. And when you're shooting out of order as sequence, I had to go bald. So they made me this amazing bald cap, Sean's guy, Kazu, who, so I did do a little bit of that. But with the main look, no, it had to be real.
And how are you able to separate that as an actor, as Liddy, and you as Shea, when you physically do go through those changes and you're living your everyday life somewhat in costume?
Yeah, you get a lot of strange looks, I guess, I mean, to me, I love staying in it. I love living in it, living with whatever character I'm playing. I enjoy that aspect of it. I don't like to just leave it at the door. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe to the detriment of my family and friends at times, you know what I mean? But to see how close we can get to when you're watching this, you feel Liddy courses through that, you know what I mean? And you have a visceral response to him, I hope.
Yes, for sure. And how was it like to see other actors go through such a dramatic makeup change as well and not even look like themselves?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you speaking of Sean.
Yes.
Well, Sean, I mean, look, he's a generational talent, but he's hard to describe for me. I mean, I idolize Sean, his work, and I was telling some other people I had his poster on my wall as a young actor, So when I get a chance to act with him or being around him, and Julia, the same thing. I think I've watched her forever, and now to be able to work with him, it's beyond special. I can't even put it into words. That's how special it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the episodes and what you have next.
We thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good one.